We actually all have it, I promise. We've all experienced it at least a few times in our lives. Once the older generation, like us, and I honestly believe that's what will happen with TikTok. So the other day, my mom texted me this. It was super cute. She says, what is a brand and what the heck does that even mean? I'm like, Mom, don't worry, I had the same question 2-3 years ago, right? That everyone just kind of was throwing around this thing oh, my brand, my personal brand, and it wasn't to be taken lightly because branding is actually very, very important. And so newsflash for you, whether you want to believe it or not, you actually already have a personal brand. And in this video, I'm gonna go over 8 steps to building a strong personal brand in 2020. And it applies to both offline and online. So whatever type of business you have, it does not matter. So all of these tips that I'm going to talk about today help me grow my following to 90,000 subscribers / followers within a year. And it's the reason why I've been able to make a 6-figure business online. So branding should never ever be taken lightly. And so to put it simply, branding or your personal brand is what people perceive about you based on what they know about you. Kind of like how you make people feel, sort of. We'll talk about that later. But an offline example of a personal brand is back in the day when I was a freshman in high school, I had an English teacher named Miss Resnick, and she had a very strong personal brand. There were some people that did not want to be in her class because she was tough, man. She had that tough love going on. She graded really hard, but she was an amazing teacher. Such a transformational teacher, and many students loved her. I mean, they would cry at the end of the year when they had to leave her class, but that's an example of a brand. She was just known for being a great teacher. She helped students not only in school, but help them with their personal activities. And so that's an example of a strong brand. Okay, so the first step to having a strong personal brand, this is probably the most important, and that is to manage imposter syndrome. So what is imposter syndrome? We actually all have it, I promise. We've all experienced it at least a few times in our lives. And I'm gonna look at my notes to show you guys the definition, but it is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud or a scammer. It's this chronic self-doubt where you're just constantly doubting yourself. It's the fear of rejection. It's the fear of what people will think, your family and your friends. And honestly, I say this seriously, but this is what keeps people from starting and following their dreams, period. Imposter syndrome will really kill your dreams. And so I want everyone watching this video to surpass something that they're scared of to do based off of imposter syndrome. A lot of the reason why people don't get started online and building their business and brand online is because they have this theory that they have to be the expert, they have to be the Bill Gates, they have to be the Gary Vaynerchuk, that level of expert in their field in order to feel like they have credentials to do what they do. I'm telling you, a lot of self-made millionaires never had certificates, credentials, school, none of that stuff, and started at a very low position that was very inconvenient, but they were able to position themselves as an expert and build their audience one follower at a time. And so they didn't care about what people thought about them, they just did the damn thing anyway. So whether or not you think you're an expert at something, you probably are, because I'm guessing you probably know something more than another person. What do I mean by this? Let's say you're studying programming or archaeology, for example. Yes, I'm using these broad examples because it can apply to any industry you're in, but let's say you're just learning programming and you want to be a programmer. It's a skill that's in high demand in the corporate world, but also in the marketing and business world. You can make a lot of money doing programming as a freelancer. But my point is, if you're still studying programming, you know way more than other people who know nothing about programming. So as you're just teaching little by little what you know about programming, this is excellent because you're positioning yourself as the expert. You could teach me the very basics about programming. Does that make sense? So getting out there and starting to teach little by little is going to help dramatically with imposter syndrome. I actually have an entire video about overcoming fear and imposter syndrome right here. You could check that out after this video if you want to know more about it, but it is super important to just whip that shit in the ass and just, kick imposter syndrome to the curb and just be confident in what you know and your expertise. All right, so step number 2 to building a strong personal brand is to claim your niche. Now this is super important because many people get construed on what the word niche actually means. They get it confused with an industry or a market, like fitness, like health, like, wealth. Those are not niches. Niches is very, very, very specific. I mean, I think, something like fitness is a category, an industry, a market, kind of, not even, it's even more broad to be identified as that. But you need to really hone in on who you're serving, in the sense that what problem are you helping people solve? What do you know? What are you going to teach? So for example, if you are in the fitness niche, what the heck are you? Are you a nutrition coach? Are you a coach that helps people shred fat? Like, what type of category? So let's say, here's an example of what I mean by, digging deeper into who you are. You can say, I'm a flexible dieting nutrition coach who helps high performance female athletes perform better and be more confident in the gym, or something like that. So it's really, really, really specific. Your expertise is flexible dieting, which is like counting your macros or something like that. High performance athletes, female, having more confidence and performing better. So, you're really explaining within one sentence what you do, but it's very, very, very clear. Tip number 3 is to be findable. Now I'm going to share my screen on my computer to give you a couple examples of what I mean by this. Okay, so what I mean by being findable and being searchable is, for example, on Instagram, it's super important that you put in the very top what you are. Are you an online fitness coach? Are you a marketing expert? Are you a, whatever it is, motivational expert? And because when you look up stuff like, online business coach or something like that, you'll be able to see the first people that pop up because they have identified who they are. So this is a really great way to make yourself searchable in Instagram, right? So you can tell exactly what I do, marketing expert, and I have what I do in my bio, in my definition. So this is actually what I meant by clarity and making it very clear on what you do, like helping entrepreneurs and content creators build, grow, and scale to 6 figures on YouTube. So you know exactly what I do when you land on my page. And by the way, if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes content on life and business. So then when we go to my YouTube, or when we go to YouTube, my name is being searched over 300 times per month. I just typed in my name as a keyword. And the reason why is because I'm leveraging SEO when I'm uploading my YouTube videos, because these tags down here are kind of like hashtags for Instagram. You put what your video is about. The important thing that I advise is that you always put your name or your channel name in the tag, so when people look it up, they can actually find you, right? And then when they land on my YouTube, they know it's me, but they also can understand from this big banner, this big image at the top, what the heck it is I actually do. So you can say it's a shorter description than Instagram, but it's the same idea on my banner. And then I have a call to action to my lead magnet. And so people right away, as soon as they land on my channel, can start engaging with me and download my freebie. Okay, so step number 4 is to dominate on one platform. So pick Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, pick one of them. And it could be others. It could be LinkedIn, it could be Pinterest, but pick one to dominate, build your audience, build your traffic. And the reason why I say one is because if you try to do too many, first, you're gonna overwhelm yourself. Second, you're not going to be able to build one and see that growth faster on one platform and dominate one platform, because you'll be so stressed out about trying to post, to Facebook and Instagram and figuring out your Facebook group and, why isn't my such and such profile growing? It's because you're not focused on one thing. So I naturally went to YouTube, 1, because at the time I was desperate and needed something to work, but 2, I believed in YouTube. I saw the progress and the way people were making money on YouTube, and I'm like, dude, I could totally do that. So I'm like, I'm gonna focus on YouTube, and that's what I did. I let go of Facebook, I let go of Instagram, and I posted every day for 90 days, which no, I don't recommend to anyone, but I was serious about growing one platform. And so the other great thing about being dominant on one platform is you get known for being dominant on that platform, and people go to you for consistent content. And that's the other thing, is you need to be consistent, show up for your audience. If you post videos weekly, stick to it. It's just like a career or any job that you have. If you don't show up, people aren't going to trust you. And by the way, if you haven't already, join the family, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. It helps supports the channel greatly. And if you are interested in growing a wildly successful YouTube business and growing your brand, your online business, download my 6-step guide, my subscribers to sales blueprint. It will be the first link in the description below. All right, so coming in at step number 5 is to give value. Now, I can't emphasize this one enough, but what are you going to teach? Giving value means basically teaching or helping people solve problems on something that you know a lot about. So if you're going into the dating coach, market, and you're the dating coach, teach people all the time about relationship advice and your tips on, whatever, getting your first date or flirting with text or whatever it is. You know, the main topics of dating and how single people could find the love of their lives or whatever your expertise is. But the point is, you are helping people solve a problem that is really important to them in their lives. I mean, we all have problems in one category or another. And so that's why, what is it that we do when we have a problem? We go to Google, we go on Instagram, we go to all these platforms online to check out how we can solve them. And if your content, your videos, your images, your posts, your articles, if they're online and they're findable, people are going to love you and trust you. And that's where the know, like, and trust factor comes in, because they're going to want to interact with you and they're going to want to reach out to you to, you know, buy your services, to buy your products. And that's how it works. The more valuable you are online, the more people will trust you and the faster your audience will grow. And this giving value doesn't have to be only for business. I mean, whatever kind of brand you're trying to grow, even if it's in the academic field, like there's this guy on Instagram that I follow. Why? I mean, because it's a cool profile. And yes, the girls think he's good looking. I think he's Dr. Evan. I'll pull him up here somewhere, but he's known as the world's sexiest veterinarian. And yes, he's good looking, but he gives massive value on his Instagram. He's always all over the world looking at exotic animals, helping with, you know, climate change, with the endangered species. And so he's built his brand as one of the most powerful and well-known veterinarians in the world. And so whatever type of academic field you're in, as I mentioned, archaeology, you know, one of my girlfriends is an archaeologist. She wants to get her PhD. I'm like, get on, build your brand around archaeology. That's so cool, because she loves it. She has an extreme passion for it. She's like, I love it. I just wish, you know, everyone could understand that it's not boring and, you know, it's really life-changing if you could just see the way I see it. I'm like, dude, get your message out there, build your brand, tell people, post on your social medias your experience, and give tips to students that want to be archaeologists and colleagues who are archaeologists. And so that's the point, is to give value. And so step number 6 is to jump on trends. Now you might be thinking, what the heck does this mean? And I'm like, well, specifically I'm talking about a trend right now, and that is called TikTok. So if it's available and if it's going on, if there's an up and coming social media platform that's growing, you know, like Instagram did back in 2011 or however, 2012, no one really believed in it, but the people that hopped on it early got the benefit of it, right? The reason why I'm hopping on TikTok is not because Gary Vee is like honing it in on all of these social media content creators and business owners, but I do believe there's a great opportunity with TikTok. It's had massive growth in the past year. There's over 500,000 users, which is a ton. I mean, if you think about Instagram, there's 1 billion monthly users, and TikTok is right behind Instagram. And so it's at its infancy stage, which means if you hop on it now, you'll get to grow faster. And as the application progresses, you'll be one of those people that started, you know, in the beginning. So it'll be great for your following and audience base. But people always say like, oh, TikTok, you know, you're never gonna make sales. You're never gonna have the audience that you want on TikTok. They're all babies. I'm like, okay, yeah, they might all be babies and they might not be buyers. However, we can't ignore this generation who are babies, you know, who's Gen Z, the age of my sister who's 17. We can't ignore this up and coming generation who's going to want to learn the content that we have. Plus, that's what people said about Instagram, like, oh, it's only for kids and this and that. You know, now, you know, my grandparents are on it, and, you know, they're on Facebook. And so eventually, once the older generation, you know, like us and older, start to figure out about these platforms, the older generation then comes on to those platforms as well. And I honestly believe that's what will happen with TikTok, is that the older millennials and older than us, the baby boomers, will get on TikTok, and those people are buyers. But the point is, when you build an audience on a platform like TikTok, you can drive them who are interested to your other platforms that are more business based and that you're more established with business, you know, like my YouTube channel, like my Instagram. And so that's the whole point with jumping on this trend and taking advantage of this massive growth early on in the application before it plateaus. And by the way, follow me on TikTok. I have a brand new account, 0 followers, 0 likes, but I uploaded 1 video. So I plan to do, you know, some creative stuff on there. So definitely give me a follow. All right, so step number 7 in building a strong brand is colors and fonts. Now, in the beginning, this isn't super important, because I think in the beginning, the most important important thing is that you're getting your content out there. But eventually you do want to focus on what are the colors, the main colors, and the main font styles of your brand. And I think people also get intimidated in the beginning because they see these Instagram profiles and YouTube channels with the perfect video editing and the perfect aesthetics and the perfect lines and fonts and colors. And it, don't freak out. It doesn't have to be perfect. But, eventually do take good care into figuring out what type of aesthetic you want to share. I mean, are your brand colors purple and blue, or a certain hint of purple and blue? Do you always do your font in open sans? Because if you have completely different fonts all the time, completely different colors all the time, if you're switching from, hot yellow to lime green to black and brown, it's just going to look very messy. And that applies to IG, it applies to Facebook, it applies, to all the platforms. But like on YouTube, my biggest mistake in the beginning was just having all kinds of colors, and no one landed on my YouTube and was like, oh, that is a Marissa style thumbnail. Now I'm just figuring out, a year and a half into my online business, that I need to get my shit together and I need to get my branding colors and everything together. So now finally my styling and my colors is starting to look more polished. But if you can figure this out more towards the beginning, you'll definitely have a stronger brand when it feels and looks good. And speaking of feels and all that, step number 8 in building your personal brand is, how do you want your brand to feel? And what does that mean? So when people think of my brand, I've been told, I'm not just saying this is what people think, but people tell me that, like, Marissa, like, you're so vulnerable, like, you speak the truth, you don't hide your failures, you're always talking about what you've done wrong, you're always talking about your progress, you're always talking about your journey. I'm vulnerable. I talk about where it is I'm at in my journey. I don't lie about numbers, I don't lie about anything, and that's what people love, is that I'm vulnerable. And the other thing they like is I'm valuable. I give a lot of free value on all my platforms. And the third thing that they like is that I give out quality stuff. I invest now money into my video editing and into my graphics, my graphic designers, because first, I can't do it all. Second, I'm not the best at it. And third, now that I'm making the income online, I am investing it back into the brand so that it has a great user experience for my visitors and people who land on my content for the first time, so that I make a good impression. Because yes, the first impression is very, very important when people land on your content online, whether it is a blog or a YouTube channel. The first impression you make is everything. People determine within 5 seconds whether or not they want to become one of your followers or subscribers. All right, guys, I hope you got super massive value from this video, and I hope that what a personal brand means and what that means to build a strong brand going into 2020, in 2020 and beyond, what that means for you in the future of your online business. I hope you got some major takeaways from this video. I'm Marissa Romero, and if you liked this video, be sure to check out this video where I talk about the best way to make money online if you're starting from scratch, if you're broke, if you don't have $1, and that video starts right now. In this video, you're gonna learn 10 high-paying jobs that you can learn and work from home so you can dump that alarm clock.